Hi you guys, welcome back to another video. Today I thought it would be kind of fun to test and rank all of the popular polymer clay brands. So we've got FIMO, Sculpey, and Cernit. And I know there's a bunch of different brands out there that aren't these brands, but I feel like these are kind of the conglomerates, like the big ones. I thought it would be kind of interesting to see how they test and compare with each other. I'm also ranking them, which is going to be kind of fun. As far as the ranking goes, this is all my opinion, so don't take it too seriously, but I have broken it down into a few categories. I feel like it's probably too many, but I don't it's too far. I'm too far in to fix it now. The first one is texture and consistency. So that is how does the clay act right out of the package? How soft is it right out of the package? The second one is workability, and that one is how easy is it to condition and how fingerprint resistant is it, and also how easy does it go into the mold, which to keep this fair and to like keep it consistent, I use the same mold for all the pieces. So they're all little clouds. They're all the same, relatively the same thickness, which is about 1/4 of an inch, which is like the recommended size for polymer clay. Like they go by 1/4 of an inch thickness, if that makes sense. If you know, you know. The third one is durability after baking, and that one's pretty obvious. How durable is it after baking? Each brand has different claims for durability. So I thought I would give it a test. And I was actually really surprised because I'm filming this after I've already tested everything. So I know which ones have performed well with durability, and I was actually shocked. The fourth one is color and finish, and that is just how well does the clay, like the baked clay, match the raw clay's color. The fifth one is scent, and all polymer clay I feel like has a smell, but some are stronger than others and some are different than others. And I felt like that was kind of important to include in the ranking criteria. Probably the most important one that people are going to care about is the price. And clay prices have gone up, especially since I was younger. I remember them being so much cheaper. Like I feel like Sculpey used to be $1.99 for the 2-ounce bricks, but now they're like 3 something. So we get into that later in the video, but I thought it was important to include just because costs are rising and value for your money is extremely important, especially when it comes to art materials. We also have brand claims, and I added this one later because I realized some of the brand claims were different than the results that I was experiencing. So I decided to include that as a part of the scoring system. And the last criteria that I included is the color selection. And that is also pretty self-explanatory. How many colors can you get from each line? And I also, for color selection, I didn't include specialty clays. I think I'm going to do another video on that and kind of compare each brand's specialty clay. So like glitters, translucents, glow in the darks, those types of clays. So those are all of the ranking criteria that I have decided to include. It sounds like a lot because it is, but I'm going to try to keep it all condensed and organized on screen for you guys. I have my finished score sheet right here. I actually have 2 of them. One of them has each brand white and purple. So I tracked the performance of the white and purple separately, and then I averaged them together. So I'm going to be showing you guys the average score. If you guys do want to see the overall sheet, I'll include it somewhere in the video when we get to the end. We're going to start with FIMO Soft, and FIMO Soft is $2.99 at Michael's. There are 24 main colors in the line and 6 trend colors. I'm not really sure what the trend colors are, to be honest with you, but that's 30 total colors. The baking temperature for FIMO Soft is 230 degrees. I have my iPad right here, and I'm going to pull up the FIMO website and read you guys the brand claims for FIMO Soft. The brand claims are, it is especially for beginners and hobby artists. It is a soft and smooth clay. It has practical division into 8 portions for easy blending. It says it's compatible with all of their other FIMO clays, so FIMO Effect, FIMO Leather, and FIMO Professional. Not very many brand claims here other than it's soft and for beginners. The FIMO Soft, the white was really stiff right out of the packaging, and it took a while to soften, but it eventually got to a workable state. Like, it was definitely usable. It was just really firm. I put on here that the softening seemed difficult. My hands were definitely pretty red, pretty raw, and I was over it already. And that was the first clay that I did, so I was like, uh-oh. The purple did stain my hands significantly, and it transferred quite a lot onto the white clay that I was using next. So I did have to wash my hands, which is not a big deal. I always wash my hands between every color change with clay. The scent was very mild. A polymer clay smell for sure. It just smells like art material or like a craft store, if that makes sense. The brand claims it to be very soft. They say it is for beginners, and I would agree with the beginner part. I think it is a good beginner clay, but I do not agree with it being soft. Like I said, I've always had problems with FIMO Soft being FIMO firm. So yeah, I don't agree with the brand claims, but it's definitely not a bad clay. For FIMO Soft, let's do the ranking. I gave texture and consistency a 3.25. I gave workability a 3.25 as well. The durability after baking on this one, I gave a 4. And as you guys can see, I was doing bend tests for the clay as my way to kind of test to see how durable these pieces were. And FIMO Soft was unbreakable. I really couldn't break it at all. The color and finish, I gave a 4. I felt like there was a slight color change to the clay, especially with the purple. The white was really not that bad, but the purple, I did notice a color change. The scent, I gave a 4 just because there's other clays that I tested that smelt better and less. Price, I gave a 4.5 because for $2.99, I feel like this is a pretty good beginner clay, and there are other brands that claim beginner clays that are more expensive, and I think some of the drawbacks of those clays are not really worth the price. For brand claims, I put a 2 because this is the worst brand claims I've ever seen. It is not FIMO Soft. It should just be called FIMO or like FIMO Classic or something like that. For color selection, I give it a 3 just because 24 colors is not a lot. I feel like they could definitely add quite a few more colors to the range. The overall average for FIMO Soft is a 3.56, and I feel like that is a pretty fair score for it. I feel confident with that. Let's move on to FIMO Professional. FIMO Professional really surprised me. I was genuinely shocked with how much I liked this clay. So FIMO Professional is $2.99 at Michael's. There are 24 main colors, including 5 true colors, which I'm not 100% sure what true colors are. I think it's just like really accurate pigments, like your blues. I think that it's like blue, red, yellow. They are all blue, red, and yellow through and through, if that makes sense. Like, I think that that's important. Like, you can't mix cyan with yellow and get green. You know what I mean? You have to mix cyan or blue and yellow to get green, to get real green. So I think that's what those true colors mean. The baking temperature is 230 degrees as well. It was definitely a really firm clay right off the bat, but it was actually easier to condition than FIMO Soft, which really surprised me. And it was also easier to work with, in my opinion. It just felt like a more professional product, I guess. Like, it was really, really nice to work with. It molded very nicely and it held its shape really well. There was a lot of resistance to fingerprints. The purple stained as well, but it wasn't as bad as the FIMO Soft. I did still have to wash my hands. The scent was the same as FIMO Soft. It was maybe a little bit milder, but pretty much the same. And as far as brand claims, I feel like the brand claims held up really well. Much better than FIMO Soft. Staedtler's website says that FIMO Professional is for professionals, artists, and advanced users. It has an excellent dimensional stability. All of those brand claims hold up exceptionally well, and I agree with every single one of them, and I was really shocked with this clay. Let's get into the scoring for FIMO Professional. I have the results here for that. I gave texture and consistency a 4. For workability, I gave it a 5 because it was easier to condition than FIMO Soft for whatever reason. I don't know what that is, but it's very interesting. And when it was softened, the fingerprint resistance was really good. And it was a very stable clay. Durability after baking, you guys can see in these clips that I could not break it, I could not bend it, and this one did not have any give to it whatsoever. So I gave this a 5 for durability after baking. Color and finish, I gave it a 4 because I felt like the color did change, specifically the purple again. The white one, again, wasn't as bad, but it did change colors slightly. For scent, I gave it a 4. It was pretty much the same as FIMO Soft, so no change there. Price, I gave it a 5. So this clay is the same price as FIMO Soft, and I don't understand that at all. I feel like it should be more expensive, or FIMO Soft should be way cheaper. Brand claims, I gave it a 5 because everything the brand claimed, I agreed with, and I came to that conclusion myself. The color selection, I gave a 3.5 just because I wish there was more colors for this type of quality of clay. It's really, really good, so I just wish there were more colors. The overall score for FIMO Professional is a 4.43, which genuinely shocked me. I was not expecting to like this clay at all, but now this is one of the clays that I'm most excited to get more of and start using more. Okay, so now moving on to Sculpey. We are going to start with Sculpey 3. I've just always been a Sculpey guy. Sculpey's always been one of my favorites, so I'm curious to see how Sculpey ranks on my list here. Sculpey 3 is $2.99 on Sculpey.com, but it is $3.49 at Michael's. However, with their 30% off, you can get it for like $2.50. So it's still cheaper if you get it at Michael's with their coupon. So just keep that in mind. There are 34 opaque colors and 50 colors in total. They include their special effects clays in their line. There's not like a Sculpey effects line. It's just Sculpey 3 and Sculpey Primo. I am only including the opaque colors, which is 34. Sculpey 3 bakes at 275 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes per quarter of an inch. Sculpey's claims are Sculpey 3 is a great introduction to oven-baked clay. It is soft, easy to use, and comes in a variety of vibrant colors. Great for beginners, general crafters, and kid parent projects due to its soft, easy-to-use texture. Stays soft until baked, does not air dry. Pretty much everything else is pretty standard there. So it looks like soft is the key word there. So let's see if it is softer than FIMO Soft, which I'm assuming it will be. Both of the colors of Sculpey 3 right out of the package were extremely, extremely soft. No conditioning was needed for both colors. So some people think that's a pro, some people think it's a con. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. With it being so soft, Sculpey 3 is a fingerprint nightmare. It's also a dust nightmare, so you just have to make sure that your work area is clean and that your hands are clean. But even in that scenario, you will still get dust and fingerprints. It's sort of inevitable. Both of the colors were left behind on my hands afterwards just because of how soft it was. Sculpey 3 seemed to generally have more moisture in it, and you can kind of see that when I first opened the clay packages. You'll notice there's a sort of wet sheen on the top of it. I think that's just indicative of how much more oil and moisture is in Sculpey as compared to a product like FIMO. The smell of Sculpey to me is like that classic polymer clay smell. So when I think of polymer clay, I think of Sculpey, and it does tend to get a little bit more potent when you bake it. As far as durability after baking with this one goes, I was kind of shocked. I wasn't expecting it to snap like a twig, but it did. And I felt like I was not putting any pressure at all on it, or at least that much pressure. This is not a very durable clay, and it doesn't claim to be a durable clay, but that is just something to keep in mind, that it is a very brittle and very fragile clay. The brand claims hold up pretty well. I feel like this is a great beginner polymer clay, and it's soft enough that there's a lot of uses that you can use it for, like mixing it with liquid clay. On the other hand, it being too soft makes it kind of a bit more difficult to work on sculpting pieces. It's still doable, it's still usable, and it's a very, very good beginner clay. Let's get into the ranking of Sculpey 3. For texture and consistency, I gave Sculpey 3 a 4.5, and for workability, I gave it a 4. And the reason I gave it a 4 instead of a 4.5 or a 5 is just because I feel like Sculpey 3 can tend to be a little bit too soft for the more experienced clay user. Durability after baking, I gave it a 2.5. For color and finish, I gave it a 3.5. I felt like the white got slightly darker than the other whites that we've tested before. It just seemed a little bit like it had a brown tint to it. And I think this was the purple that it had a weird situation going on with it. It was just weird. Like the finish was weird. It smelled way stronger. Like this, I must have just got a bad brick of clay or something, but it was definitely bizarre. For scent, I gave it a 3.5. For price, I gave it a 3. And Sculpey 3 is a really beginner clay, and I don't feel that the pricing should be similar to a clay like FIMO, which is geared towards the more experienced beginner or advanced users. Brand claims, I gave it a 4.5, and that is because everything held up pretty well. The main claim was that it was going to be soft, and it was definitely soft. For color selection, I gave it a 4 because it has a better color selection than its competitors like FIMO, and the colors are just a little bit more unique than FIMO. Sculpey 3's score is a 3.68, and that was kind of surprising, but not really after I thought about the performance and how everything ended up working. Sculpey Primo is our next clay that we are going to be ranking, and it costs $3.29 on Sculpey.com or $3.99 at Michael's. And this is one of the more expensive clays, but with the 30% off situation, it comes out to around $2.80. There are 37 opaque colors and 62 colors in total. Like Sculpey 3, Sculpey Primo doesn't separate their effects clays from the line, so it's all included. Sculpey Primo bakes at 275 degrees for 30 minutes for every 1/4 inch. Now going over some of the brand claims for Sculpey Primo, they state Primo is perfect for the more experienced clayer or artist. Primo is soft enough to blend easily, but firm enough to hold fine detail, making it perfect for specialized techniques. It's flexible, very strong, and durable. It stays soft until baked. So I feel like what they're getting at here is that it's firm, but still soft, but good for advanced users. Right off the bat, Sculpey Primo is much more firm than Sculpey 3. I found it to be less firm than FIMO Soft and FIMO Professional, but it was still a more professional feeling clay than Sculpey 3. If Sculpey 3 and FIMO Soft had a baby, I feel like it would be Sculpey Primo. It is still a rather soft clay and conditions really, really fast if needed at all, but that does mean it picks up fingerprints pretty bad and also dust, but it's not as bad as Sculpey 3. I really do feel like this is the perfect clay for the advanced user or beginners. I feel like this has it all. The smell is the same as Sculpey 3. It's that same classic polymer clay smell, but it's really not overwhelming. As far as durability goes, I was extremely shocked because I was expecting this clay to snap in half as easily as Sculpey 3 did, but it did not. It was extremely resilient and extremely strong. So this clay is very, very durable. Sculpey Primo's final score is a 4.33. And I feel like that's very fitting. I feel like this is an amazing clay, and I would definitely recommend Sculpey Primo to pretty much anybody. Our last and final clay we're going to test is a clay I've never tried before, and so I was really excited to get my hands on this. And it is Cernit number 1. Cernit number 1 is $3.49 at Michael's, and that is the only place that I've seen you can get it in store. I don't think Hobby Lobby carries it, and I also don't think Blick carries it in store. I think it's an online kind of situation. My Michael's only has the Cernit translucent colors. They only had white, in the opaque color, so I had to order the purple online. And there are 44 opaque colors, and there are 105 in the line in total. The bake temperature is interesting. It starts from 230 degrees to a max of 265 degrees for no more than 30 minutes. And they state that very clearly. Don't bake your pieces for no more than 30 minutes, which is interesting because if you have a bigger piece, I'm assuming that that goes away, but I'm not too sure. As far as brand claims go, Cernit claims that their clay is easy and quick to condition. There are 105 colors that do not stain hands or tools. Post-baking effects that meet all needs. It's odorless before, during, and after baking, and it can be rebaked multiple times without changing color, and above all, an incredible and unmatched flexibility after baking. I will say that this texture was extremely unique, and I was a big fan of it. Cernit number 1 seems like a much cloudier, but still a really dense clay that just has a extremely professional feel to it. I've never ever tried a clay that feels like this. The only thing that I would compare it to would be like cloud air clay, like air dry clay that's that texture. It's hard to explain, but I would kind of compare it to that. I was expecting it to be more like FIMO professional with the firmness, but it was definitely not like that. There was slight conditioning needed, but it was pretty much ready to go right off the bat. Cernit's claim of it being completely odorless was almost true. It still has a smell to it, but it was definitely the clay with the least amount of odor. The colors did not fade or get darker after baking. The white stayed extremely bright, and I really like the finish of this clay. It had a sort of vinyl-y type finish. It just seems really professional and like a really well thought out clay. And I'm really excited to try some of their effects clays. They look incredible. Let's get into the ranking for Cernit number 1. For texture and consistency right out of the package, I gave it a 4.5, and for workability, I gave it a 5 just because I felt like it was ready to go. It was the exact consistency that I like my clay to be at. Durability after baking, I gave it a 4 just because I didn't see the flexibility that they were talking about. Granted, it was about 1/4 of an inch thick, so I would say if the piece was thinner, it would be a lot more flexible, but I did not give that a fair test or a fair shot, so I can't really make a claim on that. So that's why I gave it a 4. For color and finish, I gave it a 4.5. I felt like this was the clay that didn't change color the most. I felt like everything held up pretty well and the color stayed really true to the raw clay. For scent, I gave this one a 4.5 because it was the clay with the least amount of odor. Price, I gave it a 4.5 because it's a little bit higher in cost than a lot of these other clays that we tried today, but I feel like that's justified because of the quality and finish that you're getting after your pieces are done baking. Brand claims, I gave it a 4.5 just because of the flexibility situation, and the baking range is slightly confusing. I feel like they could kind of narrow that down and explain it a little bit better, or give more of a guidance on thickness and temperature. Color selection is the best out of all of them. I gave it a 5 out of 5 because I've never seen a brand with 105 colors of polymer clay. Overall, Cernit number 1 score is a 4.56. Okay, you guys, so that was a lot of clay to go through. I'm excited to go over the results and see where these clays ranked. In 5th place, we have FIMO Soft with a score of 3.56. And I feel like that is fair. I feel like based on my judgments, I felt like there could have been a lot of improvement. In 4th place, we have Sculpey 3, which kind of surprised me, but after diving into it and really getting my hands on it and really putting it under the microscope, I feel like that is a pretty fair score for it, but still pretty shocking for somebody who loves Sculpey as much as I do. So for the 3rd place spot, we have Sculpey Primo, and I am glad this made top 3 because it's one of my favorite clays to use. I would agree this is a very valid score for Sculpey Primo, and I feel like it has proved itself and it deserves its 3rd place spot. In number 2, we have FIMO Professional with a score of 4.43. And that is so crazy to me. I was not expecting FIMO Professional to rank number 2 for me, and I find it quite shocking, but really exciting. I'm really excited to bring more of this clay into my craft room and start to work with it a lot more. And that leaves the number 1 spot to Cernit number 1. And I don't know if they named it Cernit number 1 because they know it's number 1, but I am so beyond excited to keep using this. I feel like this might be a new favorite for me. Aside from the formula setting them apart and putting them in an entirely different bracket, I would say that the color range also does that. And their finishes are pretty insane. That concludes my pretty insane brand testing video for Polymer Clay. If you guys want to see another video on the special effects clays that these brands offer, I would love to do that. Just let me know down in the comments below. If you guys like history, I actually did a video on the history of polymer clay. I will put that somewhere on the screen for you guys to go and watch. It's actually very interesting and gives a lot of insight on where polymer clay came from. So definitely check that video out if that sounds interesting to you. And let me know below if you guys agree with my ranking and my thoughts on all of these clays and what your experience with these clays are and what your favorite is. I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope you guys are enjoying my channel. I'm just really glad that I'm getting to hang out and share the things that I enjoy doing with people that enjoy the same thing. I can't wait to see you guys in my next video, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.